In Australia, augmentation therapy is not subsidised by the government here, which is a huge issue because it's the only treatment available that will prevent the degradation of the lungs. I cannot afford $100,000 and most people cannot afford $100,000 a year. We need government support to save us and give us longer lives. Hi, I'm Louise. I'm 62. I live in Lake Macquarie, New South Wales, and my Alpha-1 status is SZ. Growing up, I always had breathing problems. As a child, there were no Ventolin puffers or other types of preventers. I can remember being so sick that my mother had to carry me out of primary school when I was probably 7 and able to be still picked up. I do remember the embarrassment of having that happen because I couldn't walk, I couldn't breathe. And previously, I'd had asthma all my life and seen respiratory specialists who never picked it up. As I got older, the chest infections I got were starting to be more difficult to treat and lasting a lot longer. Weeks, 5 weeks, I could have off work quite a long time. So
Louise was only diagnosed in her 50s with the Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. So it's put some understanding behind her lung condition and so forth, because previously it was thought to be asthma.
In the end, my doctor threw her arms up in the air and said, "I don't know what else to give you. Nothing I'm giving you is working." And she referred me off to a chest specialist, Professor Peter Walk, who's now at St Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne running the cystic fibrosis clinic. And he was the first person to diagnose me, despite through my life seeing many other respiratory specialists. None had ever picked it up. On his first visit, sent me off for a test and it found I had Alpha-1, which I'd never heard of. And so that was my diagnosis at 55-ish. Having Alpha-1 has impacted my life significantly because the times when I get sick for very long periods. So I have no sick leave or long service leave left at my work, and I feel really guilty when I'm off work and having to have other people fill in on that. When I go back to work and I teach students and they get really upset that I haven't been there doing my job with them. I don't know that your boss is always that happy when you're sick a lot. It's affected my life financially and time-wise because I see quite a lot of specialists, not just for the Alpha-1 but the comorbidities that go along with Alpha-1. So I have type 2 diabetes, really bad arthritis in my feet and heart issues. So that costs a fortune because they're $200 to $300 every visit and they all want to see you a couple of times a year, as well as about 20 drugs that I take because I have a lot of other comorbidities. I wonder how I'm going to retire and be able to afford to keep well and pay for all of that.
My name's Barry. I'm married to Louise. We've been married for coming up to 36 years. My understanding of Alpha-1 is not well widely known, and a lot of people, you say Alpha-1 and people don't know what you're talking about, they've never heard of it. It impacts our relationship because I've got to be extremely careful that I don't bring germs, bugs into the house, don't invite people that's got colds or flu or anything like that. We've got to be very health aware of our state of health.
It seems like it's a condition that affects your lungs and then parts of your other organs as well, and can have impacts on your life health-wise. She doesn't really go on about her illnesses at all, but I know that she has asthma problems and she has heart problems and this liver thing, and just goes on. Yeah, a lot of stuff. So she just gets on with her life.
I stay healthy by increasing my exercise, originally just walking or doing some yoga, and nowadays I'm fit and active and go to the gym probably 3 times a week. I lost a lot of weight. The last couple of years, I'd say 28 kilos. to help my breathing. I go to a great gym, Genesis, and they have a zone called the coaching zone, which is a personal trainer runs small group coaching, and they're very well trained to adapt the exercises to people's disabilities or other issues that they might have.
So I'm Mitchell. I'm a coach here at Genesis in Warners Bay. When I tailor the training for Louise, I adjust things based on her heart rate and her limits. We have heart rate monitors on everyone that does our classes. So we've set Louise up so that she has a maximum heart rate. If she starts to approach that, I can go over and let her know that I just need to get her to slow down. If there's a few exercises that might be a bit too much, I can regress those, change them a little bit just to either reduce the impact or reduce the intensity of them.
I had to have a few things modified, but Mitchell's really good. He knows me well enough to quickly get me to do a 5 task. But you don't feel different because you just flow along with it. I'm a social butterfly and nothing much stops me getting out and socialising. So I go out with friends every weekend for a coffee or a shop or a walk, go to the raffles.
Louise is she's always seeing what's on, whether it's concerts, whether it's dinner, whether it's...
Absolutely.
She's fully booked, I think.
We go for walks sometimes, we have coffees, we go to the movies, go out for dinner.
Lou lives a very active life, full-time teacher, going to the gym, very active social life, very involved with her family and grandchildren. So
She loves to be social, very social, but when she gets sick, she gets very sick. And the impact it does on her work with her sick leave, I believe she doesn't have any sick leave now. So she can be well and she loves to socialise, but when she gets sick, she can get very sick. You just got to be conscious of that. If you've got even just a minor cold, that you might have a minor cold, but it will be a lot more for Louise. And I think we're all just switched on to that now and we look after her.
Most of the health professionals I saw up until my 50s didn't know what was going on. They thought it was asthma and they wondered why I didn't respond like other people. And that's why I think they probably thought it was in my head. That's what I was made to feel, like I was a hypochondriac or, someone just bunging it on. After diagnosis and seeing someone who looked at me and thought, yep, there's something more going on here, let's get some more help. That was great to be listened to be not spoken to as if you were faking things or... I used to feel terrible sometimes going to the doctors and trying to explain to them what was happening to me. Since I was diagnosed, my daughter has been tested and found out that she is an MZ, and all her life she's had pretty bad asthma and been, as a little baby, in and out of hospital with asthma. She's managing better now because she's on biologic needle 2 called Nucala, which she only has to have once a month, and that's been really good for her. She doesn't get as sick anymore, but she's only 33, so it's good that she's got it now and her lung won't be damaged as much by the enzymes that eat your lung tissue away if not treated quickly and properly. I worry for my grandchildren who are 3 and 7, and both of them have very bad asthma and have been in and out of hospital as well. So in the future, I really hope there's better treatments that will help them to not get to the position that I'm in now with so many other comorbidities and the breathing problems and the worry about the future and, hopefully I don't have to go onto oxygen or die from liver failure or anything like that. An earlier diagnosis of Alpha-1 would have made me make better health choices earlier in my life. I might have been able to breathe better without as many other medications being added in. It might have prevented me getting comorbidities. It also would have made me advocate and be stronger with my doctors, knowing what I had, to be able to say to them, this is what I need to keep healthy. And I wouldn't have felt like a hypochondriac when I went to the doctors and needed antibiotics and they didn't want to give it to you. So the doctors would have had a plan to follow and I would have felt more comfortable. Augmentation therapy is the only therapy available for people with Alpha-1 to prevent the degradation of the lungs being eaten by their own enzymes. My research, and especially through the American Alpha-1 Foundation, shows that augmentation therapy is the best treatment, the only real treatment to prevent further damage to lungs, and it is very effective, and it's the only thing at the moment that is effective for Alpha-1s. It's funded for the great big population of America and all the people there who have been diagnosed. They access under their insurance scheme, and in most countries around the world it is funded for people to access, but in Australia it's not. It costs $100,000 a year to be treated with that. It should be available, maybe not for me right now, but for the alpha people who are really strongly lung affected, who will have shortened lifespans without this drug, and they cannot afford to pay $100,000 a year out of their own pockets, because that is a whole year's wages. It needs to be funded, and people need to fight for that. We need government support to save us and give us longer lives and more quality of life. Doctors need to start raising awareness that this is a disease. It's not a rare disease. It's an underdiagnosed disease because there isn't awareness among the medical fraternity. You know, why should I not be subsidised for my therapy when someone with another type of disease can get subsidy from the government and lots of support? You know, there's nothing available. I can't afford it. I can't get it. My children can't get it. And so people die without it at an earlier age. It's very sad here. It's disgusting, really. I don't want my children and grandchildren and future great-grandchildren to be left without a treatment for this incurable disease. I hope that there will be gene therapy developments in the future that will patch up the faulty genes and cure it so that we live a normal life and don't have to worry about all these things that affect us so greatly. You know, I should be able to retire and not worry about all the doctor's things that I've got to pay for. And if we could find a cure for it, I could live that normal life. And my children in the future, if they get really, really sick, could live till an old age if they were able to get augmentation that would prevent their lungs being damaged.